Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back. Our guest today is my good friend Tavi Costa, partner and portfolio manager at Crescat Capital. Welcome back, sir.
Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's a huge pleasure having you come down, especially right now with all the excitement happening in the precious metal space. Gold is hitting new all-time highs. Silver is also having some exciting times. But I wanted to get you on to talk about. Let's start off with gold, Tavi. What do you think's happening right now with gold and hitting new all-time highs? Do you think it has to do with the tariffs? Do you think it has to do with the COMEX and LBMA? What are your thoughts?
Combination of things, but what I think it's really happening is actually has to do more with the what's been leaking in regards to the potential revaluation of gold prices in the Feds and the Treasury balance sheet. And that would be probably one of the most important things that we've seen since the break of the gold window and so forth. And I do think this is going to be very meaningful. It's the government finally recognizing the need for improving the quality of their international reserves in regards to the U.S. And in this environment that we've been facing of Eastern societies, particularly BRICS and other Eastern countries that have been accumulating gold right in front of the U.S. And we're starting to see now a shift where this recent rally, has been accompanied by a lot of Western societies actually being the ones participating on the rally. So the prior rallies that we've had in gold prices were much more heavily driven by those other economies, more authoritarian economies, basically, doing this as a strategic move to move away from U.S. Treasuries. And this time around, I do think that we're seeing Western societies starting to actually buy gold as well, which has been driving this big move, along with the revaluation idea. The revaluation is probably, as I said, it's probably one of the most relevant things happening right now. And if that really occurs through the monetization of assets that Scott Bessent has been talking about, the Treasury Secretary, this could be profound in terms of the meaningfulness in markets. And I do think gold will go a lot higher as we see that materialize. And that's what's happening. I think it's just leaking that information further and further.
Absolutely. And what about silver? Do you see silver just playing the catch-up game, or do you see silver, ultimately pushing for the new all-time highs like how it was back in the day, or like what are your thoughts on silver right now?
I've always been very bullish on silver. I've always been very keen on trying to buy and acquire assets that have silver exposure. But I have to say, this is the most important period in my view for silver. I've never seen a time when gold prices have been doing what it has been doing. And on the face of all that, the gold to silver ratio still is a 90, and nobody is paying attention to the metal. When you look at technically, to me, it's a big, quick run of $10 an ounce that could happen in the course of a month. And,
Wow.
that doesn't mean we're going to end there. I'm just saying that that's the first path, getting up to about $40 an ounce or so would be probably an important area, because if you look at the candles quarterly going back, especially since the 1970s. Yes, silver prices hit the 50s and so forth, but the end of the candle was really around 40. So getting back to that 40 level is highly likely. It wouldn't shock me at all if it happens in the course of a month.
There's about $15 trillion worth of physical gold in the world sitting there costing money rather than being used. Is just absolutely insane. Monetary Metals is bringing gold back into the financial world, putting gold to productive use right now. The problem with gold, of course, in physical form is that it's heavy, it's cumbersome, it's not particularly easy to ship, and it costs money to store in a protected manner. This platform Monetary Metals created is a proven concept and allows gold to be put to productive use, so that instead of sitting there costing you money, it's actually in use earning you money.
Learn how you can earn 2 to 5% in our leasing program and how accredited investors can earn up to 12% on silver paid in silver. This advertisement is not investment or financial advice. Minimum investment applies.
And so I do think that, a lot of people are not paying attention to this. We're seeing production in Mexico actually continue to wane. Mexico, for those who don't know, it's one of the largest producers in the world. There's also the Peruvian production numbers are also very weak. And so from a supply standpoint, we're not really seeing a lot come online.
Right.
And the demand side of it has been driven by a lot of things. Yes, it's likely to be driven by speculation because of the link to gold prices. That's what's called the monetary metal aspect of silver itself. But don't forget, all the stuff happening with solar panels and all those things. I used to be a little bit, critical about some of those topics, but I ran the numbers myself. And if we're going to go to production or electricity consumption that of the numbers that we're seeing in terms of the estimates for artificial intelligence and onshoring, which are real trends, are going to
Right.
force us to actually develop solar panels. And from my calculation, if we're going to be running things like Elon Musk has been saying, we're probably going to need about 5 years of silver production alone just for the US. And so
Wow.
imagine that for the rest of the global economy. And that, that's demand growing from, low single digits from a few years ago, that could be covering the entire, 5 years of supply of silver annually. So that's a big change in the dynamic that I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to. So I mean, if I would put on a scale of 0 to 10 of the last, 3 years of how bullish I am right now, it's at an 11. And
Wow.
I couldn't be more bullish right now, and especially because nobody else is.
And what happens? Yeah, you absolutely nailed it, Tavi. And I guess what my question is, what happens with the silver producers? Like, can they keep up with this demand? Can you get new mines that are doing, that are producers in that span of time that quick? Or what happens on the mining side?
Well, this is what is interesting about this. We're about to see big changes in profitability of the mining companies. What we saw today with Barrick was just a glimpse, in my view. Barrick was up about 6%, showing, an increase of all sustaining costs of about $100 an ounce.
Wow.
Think about this. From a year ago, gold prices have gone up about $1,000 an ounce.
Wow.
So you look at the cost structure change from a year ago, we're talking $100, $200 an ounce. So some of these companies are taking on about $800 per ounce on increase of profitability. That's huge. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think we've ever seen a time like this for the
Yeah.
mining industry. And so while some people are starting to understand and catch on to the potential for the changes, you look at the estimates are still incredibly low. My suspicion is that what we're going to see is estimates are going to be all broken in terms of we're going to see things, a lot of positive surprises across the board among most of the miners, and people are going to start understanding that this industry can make money. There are times that it makes a lot of money, and I
Right.
think that time is now. Look at the gold to oil ratio. That's one example. It's at its highest level in history if you exclude the craziness that happened in COVID. In other words, what does that mean? Gold to
Right.
oil ratio reflects into the profitability and the margins of, directly into the profitability of the mines. And so, what do you think it's going to happen? Well, it's probably extremely bullish for the mining industry. And so, that's another part of the market that nobody else is paying attention. You look at the mining index versus gold, and it's in the dumps. And that's because, yes, a lot of the mining companies have not done very well, but that's about to change. And we're
Yeah.
about to see leverage in terms of relative to gold prices, in my view.
Yeah, and you know what? I've always been so fascinated by just your LinkedIn. Like, I'm going to share something here, the history of the US dollar cycles. This is on your LinkedIn page. You did post this, a few days ago, but I wanted to get your thoughts and opinions on what are we seeing here? Is that as the tech bubble comes in for the US, like, yeah, what are we seeing here exactly?
Well, the dollar goes through phases, and it's much easier to look at those things when you take a step back and look at the 10-year rolling change of any asset. It's in particular the dollar, and that's what it done in this chart. And so you're seeing, there are moments where there's a long-term cycle on the upside and a long-term cycle on the downside. And right now we're at a pivotal moment for the US dollar. I mean, if you think about even, folks have been talking about the fact that we're seeing American exceptionalism and so forth. We've never seen this level of American exceptionalism from a market standpoint. In other
Right.
words, if you look at the valuation of a US company versus the rest of the world, that differential has never been so extreme as it is right now. And a part of this is a function of the dollar. The dollar has been, sucking most of the capital outside of the world through treasuries, through technology companies, through the equity market, through the housing market. All sorts of things have been attracting those things. And when you look at the dollar, upward movements are usually linked to some level of bull market in the asset class, and
Right.
until a moment where things start to turn. And I do think we're about to see a turn of the dollar that will create a rebalancing period across the globe, where we're going to see actually the rest of the world is starting to improve their performance. Well, let me tell you a few things that have been happening right now that nobody else is paying attention to.
Okay.
European banks have been performing better than the Mag 7 stocks in the last year, in the last 2 years.
Wow.
I mean, not a lot of people know that. And I'm not
No.
here to say that, these companies are going to be the next Mag 7. All I'm saying is there is return in other parts of the world that is starting to look better than in the US. And I think people are going to start paying attention to those things. And the US dollar has been suffocating the rest of the world and helping the US. And if the US wants to continue to grow, it has to help the rest of the world. And I do think what we're going to see as part of this new administration is a drive of depreciation of the US dollar in a large way. And as we see that, I think that chart that you're looking at will look even more pronounced when it comes to that downward trend that I think would be a long-term one. And that usually is linked to emerging markets doing very well, the rest of the world doing very well, but also mining companies, natural resources, commodities. So, this is what we need for this part of the market to start performing well. Value stocks that we haven't seen doing well in a long time, things are about to change quite drastically, in my view.
Absolutely. And I find it fascinating, Tavi, that a lot of people in the precious metal space, you say like they always say like, if the US dollar is strong, precious metals will go down. But we're seeing a strong US dollar and new all-time highs in gold and higher silver prices. So do you think that type of, that type of thinking is going to break? Like, and the US dollar, a lot of people are saying is going to go down from here. So how does that contribute to precious metals prices?
So here's where a lot of your viewers will disagree with me, and that's okay. I've been of one of the guys that have been talking about for a long time about how I thought the dollar was actually not about to break, and the dollar was going to do very well relative to other currencies. I
Okay.
think that has been the right view, especially against the Chinese yuan.
Hello, my fellow silver and gold stacker. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching the channel. Subscribe, please like the video, and also hit the notification bell. Keep stacking.
If you remember, we put out many letters regarding how we thought China was going to collapse. And then now everybody's talking about the defaults and all these things about China.
Yeah,
And the time to be bearish in all those things was 5 years ago, not now. Now it's just reporting the news. And so, what is the next 5 years will look like? And that's the most important question. In my view, I think the dollar looks very peaky. And I don't like to own dollar assets at all. I actually think we're going to see the other side of that. We're going to see other currencies starting to do better. That does not mean the dollar is going to lose its reserves currency status. I do think that's a focus of the administration.
right,
But when you think about it, the economy, the US economy cannot survive a very strong dollar. Simply cannot do that. I mean, this strength of the dollar we're seeing here is unsustainable. It creates, tightness of monetary conditions, and things are going to start to break if we keep seeing this. It's the same thing with interest rates. We got two problems here. Interest rates cannot be going a lot higher. We have too much debt.
right.
And at the same time, the dollar cannot be too strong. So you're telling me that those two things are going to be capped. What do you think that's going to do? That's going to give that red light that you used to have on emerging markets going to shift to a green light. And
Right.
so I do think that there's a high potential for those things to do really well, emerging markets specifically, South America specifically, for many reasons. And I think we're about to see that turn.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a pretty exciting 2025. And Tavi, it's such I want everyone to please go follow Tavi on all of his socials. Tavi, where can people follow you? I'll put the links in the description below. I know your LinkedIn is an incredible place for a source of knowledge, but where else can people follow you?
Well, thank you very much for having me, first of all. And you can also find my work in on Twitter at Tavi Costa. I post charts almost daily there. And also you can find, you said LinkedIn, and also our website, crescat.net is where you can find our letters. And I'm working on one currently, and I look forward to reporting that so people can read as well.
Yeah, you know what, Tavi? A huge, huge pleasure having you come down. Everyone watching, I highly recommend you. Please go follow Tavi. I'm going to put the links in the description below. And Tavi, as the market develops and as all the excitement continues in precious metals, I'd absolutely love to have you back on.
Well, thanks for having me again, and I look forward to next interviews.
Nice. Talk to you soon.
Talk soon.